Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Keep the faith.
This is going to be a disaster.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Can you share how your information about war plans against the Houthis in Yemen was shared with a journalist in The Atlantic? And were those details classified?
You're talking about a deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist who's made a profession of peddling hoaxes time and time again, to include the hoaxes of Russia, or the fine people on both sides hoax, or suckers and losers hoax. So this is the guy that peddles in garbage. This is what he does. I would love to comment on the Houthi campaign because of the skill and courage of our troops. I've monitored it very closely from the beginning. And you see, we've been managing 4 years of deferred maintenance under the Trump administration. Our troops, our sailors were getting shot at as targets. Our ships couldn't sail through. And when they did shoot back, it was purely defensively or at shacks in Yemen. President Trump said, no more. We will reestablish deterrence. We will open freedom of navigation, and we will ultimately decimate the Houthis, which is exactly what we're doing as we speak from the beginning, overwhelmingly.
Why were those details shared on Signal, and how did you learn that a journalist was privy to the targets, the types of weapons used?
I've heard I was characterized. Nobody was texting war plans, and that's all I have to say about that.
Right,
Thank you.
Appreciate it. That's
The
it.
NSC said it was authentic.
But NSC says it, the National Security Council says it's authentic. They said it was. So what are you lying to my face on this tarmac for, Mr. Hegseth? Are you drunk, sir? And don't your tattoos qualify you to be put on a plane to El Salvador? Just a question. Brett was like, yeah, that. Right. I mean, you've seen his tats. They're totally, I mean, they're huge. They look like, something that a gang member would have upon their person. I don't know. I mean, if we're going to use tattoos for, the dividing of terrorists versus non-terrorists, gang members versus non-gang, then you have to put him on. You got to put him back on that plane. He's standing on a tarmac. I mean, how much closer to a plane can you get? Just put him back on there and take him to Bukele. Take him there to the world's, coolest dictator. I mean, it's just like unbelievable. But anyway, Jeffrey Goldberg, he went out and he defended himself. Jeffrey Goldberg is, in case you are blanking out on all the news that's coming at you. Woo! It's just wow. He is the chief. He's the editor-in-chief at The Atlantic. Now, you know I'm a fan of The Atlantic. Donald Trump thinks it's a bad magazine, a loser's magazine. He thinks it's a magazine that's going out of business, and of course, Pete Hegseth actually accused him of promoting, Russia, and all that. Meanwhile, I want you to understand that Jeffrey Goldberg, if this had been, let's say, texted on Signal to like Steve Bannon, the day before the attack on Yemen, would have been on his show going, all hell is going to break loose tomorrow. Strap in. And, giving a heads up to the Houthis. What? Yes, it's what he does. All hell's going to, it's not going to look exactly the way you think it is. But all hell is going to break loose tomorrow. Strap in. Thank God they texted it to Jeffrey Goldberg, who refused to publish the details, the weapons packages. He said he got weather reports on this chat about, would it be a good night to bomb Yemen? Would, the weather be cooperative? I mean, it's just like unbelievable. But he was asked specifically about whether or not Hegseth was telling the truth when he denied that he had texted war plans.
Secretary Hegseth there saying that nobody was texting war plans. given you were privy to this group chat. Is that how you saw it?
No, that's a lie.
Oh.
He was texting war plans. He was texting attack plans. When targets were going to be targeted, how they were going to be targeted, who was at the targets, when the next sequence of attacks were happening. I didn't publish this, and I continue not to publish it because it felt like it was too confidential, too technical, and I worry, honestly, that sharing that kind of information in public could endanger American military personnel.
Oh.
But no, they were plans for the attack. And they were texted before the attack.
And there were things texted that you viewed as so sensitive, you did not even publish them in your report today.
I made the decision that the technical aspects of this, including what kinds of weapons packages, the attack sequencing, and so on, that's not necessarily in the public interest. What's in the public interest is that they were running a war plan on a messaging app and didn't even know who was invited into the conversation. I mean, it's an obvious, ridiculous security breach. And, you know, he if you notice, he didn't actually answer the question.
Yeah, I did notice. You know, it is an amazing thing that Hegseth is, you know, denying that war plans were texted to a journalist who was invited to a commercially operated encrypted messaging app that is not authorized to host national security conversations about weapons packages, people who would be killed. And by the way, 53 people were killed in this attack. So this is not without consequence. Okay, this really did happen. And, you know, Jeffrey Goldberg knew it was going to happen, and he knew it was going to happen days before it happened, and then 2 hours before it happened. And then he was sitting in a grocery store parking lot, included in a secure app conversation about attacking a foreign nation. Now, what's interesting about this is that our national security advisor, Mr. Walls, and a man in my position cannot be made to look ridiculous. Yes, it's Mr. Walls. Mr. Walls, who was a congressman and is now our national security advisor, he was in Moscow when he invited everyone to this text chain. He was in Moscow. Do you understand what I'm saying? Our national security advisor was in Moscow. Now, he wasn't in a skiff, and there is one. He could have gone to the American embassy in Moscow, and he could have gotten in the skiff there, and he could have participated in this conversation, and it could have been a secure conversation for all we know, okay? But no, and if he was in a hotel room in Moscow, does anybody believe that hotel rooms in Moscow aren't bugged? Because I do not. I do not believe that that is the case. And here you have our national security advisor who is making me feel very insecure nationally by doing this crap. And so today there was this fortuitously scheduled hearing in the United States Senate about, the security of the United States. It was one of those. And tomorrow, the same one is scheduled to happen in the House. It will happen in the House. So, I mean, it was just like one of those things that just fell into our laps to let us know that our hair should be on fire and that the lights are blinking red, that we do not have a national security advisor or a secretary of defense or a CIA director or a national intelligence director, Tulsi Gabbard. You know, Tulsi Gabbard is also on this text chain. She was not in the United States at the time either. She was in, I believe, in the Indo-Pacific, touring the Indo-Pacific. I don't know, but that's where she was. I mean, how is this happening where people are on, I don't know, foreign soil discussing attacks that are going to happen momentarily? Do you know what I like? And man, do they hate Europe too. Oh my God.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Okay, here's Jeffrey Goldberg once again.
Honestly, my reaction was, I think I've discovered a massive security breach in the United States national security system, which is to say, it's almost automatically true that if the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic is being given access to this kind of information, weapons systems and packages and timing and weather. In Yemen and all kinds of information about sequencing of particular events, then obviously there's a security breach. The second thought that I had was that, this has obviously been a subject of political debate for years in America, obviously in earnest since the Hillary Clinton email server issue. And Donald Trump, of course, has called for Hillary Clinton to be imprisoned because of her emails. And yet here I am watching his administration engaging in a conversation on my phone, in essence, about matters that one would assume would be kept hidden from open source commercial messaging apps.
But her emails. Lock her up. But her emails. Everybody. Benghazi. Okay, so shouldn't we be talking about that? Shouldn't we? I mean, this is crazy. This is so clown car, predictable. This is such a bunch of losers. These are like the worst people in the world. Last time he goes, I know the best people. I'm going to get the best people. The best people in the world wouldn't let him do crap like this. Now he's got the worst people in the world. Hello, Kakistocracy. That thing ought to just slide out of your mouth now. It should just be like the easiest thing to remember, because it simply means the worst people in charge of your government. And, it's so amazing that Walz is inviting Jeffrey Goldberg. And what's really crazy is Hegseth was communicating on the app about, here's what it said. And, just so everybody understands, they're going to blame Jeffrey Goldberg. Jeffrey Goldberg is about to go through some things. You understand that, right? I think he does, too. He's about to get sued by the Trump administration for defaming, Walz or Hegseth or whoever, and that he's lying about all that. But you know what? Everybody know what there is? Screenshots! Good God. There are screenshots. Ugh. Anyway, one of them says, it's Hegseth saying, I will do all we can to enforce 100% OPSEC. OPSEC. Now, if you don't know what OPSEC means, that's okay, because neither does Pete Hegseth. Operational security. Okay, I just, wow. This is so freaking crazy. And, Plastered Pete is just like on the tarmac denying that any of this actually happened. The National Security Council has said it's authentic. These things happened. This was the context. This was the context of these text messages. It did happen on Signal. No, Signal is not an authorized place to talk about, impending, operations, impending attacks on foreign countries. Oh, my God. But, I suggest we all check our spam folders in our email, because you never know. I might have some sort of an email that Trump is going to attack, I don't know, Hamas or something. Help Israel, do the ethnic cleansing. That is going on over there. But just check, because sometimes your email server might read that as spam, but it's really national security information. So just go ahead, check your folders and make sure that you weren't included on a Pete Hegseth or a Mike Walz encrypted app communication session, or as the kids say, a sesh. It's just like, this is unbelievable. And will they have an investigation of this incredible breach? No. I understand from Tulsi Gabbard's testimony today that the National Security Council will be investigating her, and she's in charge of them. So that ought to go just really well. That ought to get to the bottom of things, don't you think? Oh, yeah. I mean, it's kind of crazy. And, the questions today, it was really amazing. Senator Mark Warner was like, okay, correct me if I'm wrong here, but this is what we learned yesterday.
Yesterday, we stunningly learned that senior members of this administration, and according to reports, 2 of our witnesses here today were members of a group chat that discussed highly sensitive and likely classified information that supposedly even included weapons packages, targets, and timing, and included the name of an active CIA agent.
Oh, great.
Putting aside for a moment that classified information should never be discussed over an unclassified system, it's also just mind-boggling to me that all these senior folks were on this line and nobody bothered to even check. Security Hygiene 101. Who are all the names? Who are they? Well, it apparently included a journalist. And no matter how much the Secretary of Defense or others want to disparage him, this journalist had at least the ethics to not report, I think, everything he heard. Question I raise is like, everybody on this committee gets briefed on security protocols. We're told you don't make calls outside of SCIFs of this kind of classified nature. We don't know, and I'm going to ask, obviously. Director Gabbard is the executive in charge of all, keeping our secrets safe. Were these government devices? Were they personal devices? Have the devices been collected to make sure there's no malware? There's plenty of declassified information that shows that our adversaries, China and Russia, are trying to break in to encrypted systems like Signal. I can just say this, if this was the case of a military officer or an intelligence officer and they had this kind of behavior, they would be fired.
Yes.
As I think this is one more example of the kind of sloppy, careless, incompetent behavior, particularly towards classified information, that this is not a one-off or a first-time error.
So are we to conclude that Tulsi Gabbard is a DEI hire? Now I'm lost in the whole DEI thing, and I know that I have to obey the DEI orders. Maybe it was a DUI order. I don't know, because Pete Hegseth obviously is the most competent, most qualified. Of course he was picked for merit. I mean, he's a Fox News weekend host. Who wouldn't, say that his resume actually supports him becoming the Secretary of Defense? And Tulsi Gabbard is a congresswoman from Hawaii. And of course, her resume leads you to choose her to be the Director of National Intelligence. Right. Merit.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Mr. President, your reaction to the story in The Atlantic that said that some of your top cabinet officials and aides had been discussing very sensitive material through Signal and included an Atlantic reporter for that. What is your response to that?
I don't know anything about it. I'm not a big fan of The Atlantic. To me, it's a magazine that's going out of business. I think it's not much of a magazine, but I know nothing about it. You're saying that they had what?
They were using Signal to coordinate on sensitive materials and
having to do with what? Having to do with what? What were they talking about?
With the Houthis.
The Houthis? You mean the attack on the Houthis? Right. Well, it couldn't have been very effective because the attack was very effective. I can tell you that. I don't know anything about it. You're telling me about it for the first time.
I know nothing. I know nothing. I see nothing. Because everybody, the buck stops over there. The buck stops over there, or, throw walls under the bus. I never liked him anyway. And, how about Hegseth? Is he sober today? We could fire him, but he won't remember, and he'll just keep coming back to work. So, skip that, and let's just, what's with Tulsi's little, there was a little girl who had a little curl. Get rid of her. Somebody's got to get, somebody has to take the fall for, I guess. I don't know. Or maybe they'll just continue to lie. The lying was so thick today. It was unbelievable. Tulsi's like, I'm not answering your question. I'm just not.
It strains the audience and the watching public's credibility. If we're talking about timing, packages, that somehow this would be okay to put out. Or just, frankly, senior American officials trashing Europe. I've been around this for a while. This is not information you generally put out. And the notion there's not even acknowledgement of, hey, gosh, we screwed up, is stunning to me. And the idea somehow, well, none of this was classified, but we can't talk about it here. You can't have it both ways.
Oh, it said Gabbard. I thought she was in this clip. She absolutely refused to answer any of the questions, just none, because she's the director. She sits on top of all the intel agencies. She's actually Ratcliffe's boss. She's actually the National Security Advisor's boss, okay? And she's like, no, I'm not, I defer to the Department of Defense is what I'll do. I'll do. I mean, I don't, were you in the country? No, I was not in the country. But you were on Signal talking about war plans? I'm not answering your question. I'm just, I'm not going to do it. You know why? Because you're not Vladimir, and I love him. Apparently that's the reason. But her emails, everybody, her emails. September 18th, 2015. 6:28 p.m. Email. Hillary. John Podesta. So I've been making a lot of risotto lately, and regardless of the recipe, I more or less adhere to every step you taught me. Question, why do I use a quarter or a half cup of stock at a time? Why can't you just add 1 or 2 cups of stock at a time? Because the arborio rice will eventually absorb it anyway, right? You better defer. You better defer. You better kick that can away from you, Mrs. Clinton, because you will never be president with that kind of info on your email server. Sorry, lock her up. Lock her up, baby. She wants to add a whole cup of broth to the rice.
Scandalous.
Oh, my God. Do you know what that does? It doesn't allow for the rice to release its starch. And you don't get the creamy consistency that you require from a decent risotto. There's no wonder the Trump administration hates Europe. They probably had bad risotto at a restaurant in Rome and just can't get past it. Do you know what I'm saying? Of course that's it. Of course this is why they're trashing Europe on this, Anybody ever have a bad piece of veal in Rome? No, nobody ever did because it doesn't exist. That's just a myth. It's a legend. It's a horrible, ugly American story that one ugly American tells to another about why they wouldn't want to go back to Rome. And it's cold. Holy crap, man. I mean, it's like day-old bread in France. Even that's good, though, because you know why? Butter. Just saying. Put it on the, Jimmy, my ex-husband. You know what he wants on his tombstone? Do you know? Do you know what? I'm under tight instructions what to put on the headstone. He loved butter. That's what I'm to put. Nobody hates Europe. Nobody does, except for these people. Why? Because they're in love with Vladimir. They're in love with him. And they want to give him a nice gift. And that gift is going to be Rome. That gift is going to be Warsaw. That gift is going to be, Belarus. Well, they already have that. They're going to complete the set. You got your Romania, you got Hungary, you got, Belarus. So complete the set now. Give them Ukraine, give them Poland, and a tiny slice of, northern Italy and maybe a sliver of France. Really, this is just unbelievable to me. But they really do hate Europe. They're on this thing screaming about how they hate to do this. They hate to attack the Houthis, who, by the way, are not fighting Europe. No, the Houthis are fighting Saudi Arabia. See, the Houthis are fighting the Sunni Islamists because the Houthis are a proxy group for the Shia Iranians. It's between the brothers, Kay. This goes back 2,000 years. Okay. But that's what this is, right? And so they're saying, well, we don't want to do this for Europe, and Europe is the one that's using the Suez Canal, and so they're going to have to pay us. It's actually in the text messaging. They're going to have to pay us. And what if they don't? What if they don't pay us? We're going to go kill Houthis for them? They need to pay us. It's so transactional, the whole freaking thing. These people are just the lowest of the low lives. And when Trump stands there, he's like, the buck does not stop with me. Oh, no. Oh, hell no. I am not going down for any of these losers. Okay, go talk to them. Go talk to them. It's just like with the same thing with the El Salvador flights, right? When he was asked whether or not he signed the AEA, the Alien Enemies Act, it's now got a, initials. AEA, everybody, the 1798 AEA. He said he didn't sign it. Remember? He said he didn't sign it. We should go figure out who did. We should go figure out who used the auto pen because he didn't sign it. He doesn't know anything about it. Talk to Marco. He offered Marco. Marco's also on this call. I wonder if Marco's going to take the hit. I don't know. I mean, it's like the brackets now. You know what I mean? It's like, we're down to almost like the Sweet 16. Yeah. So now I could play. Because it's like throwing darts for me. I know nothing. So this is like that too, except I know a little more about this than I do about, basketball. But make a bracket. Because there were 18 people on this phone call. 18. One of them was a journalist. So 17 people on this phone call. One of them, I don't even know who it was. So 16, okay? 16 people that could possibly be the ones that are going to take the fall. Because it's got to be a name you know. Has to be. Pick one. See if you're right. Let's make a bet. I'll say, I don't know. Yesterday I was going to say Walls. Yesterday I would say it's definitely Walls. Definitely Walls is going to take the hit because he's the one that invited Jeffrey Goldberg, the journalist, to the Signal chat. But then I thought, should be somebody higher up in security who arranged it.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Here she is, everybody, our Director of National Intelligence.
Director Gabbard, did you participate in the group chat with Secretary of Defense and other Trump senior officials discussing the Yemen war plans?
Senator, I don't want to get into the specifics.
Ma'am, were you on? You're not going to be willing to address. So you're not. Are you denying? Matt, will you answer my question, ma'am? You were not TG on this group chat.
I'm not going to get into the specifics.
So you refuse to acknowledge whether you were on this group chat.
Senator, I'm not going to get into the specifics.
Why are you going to get into the specifics? Is it because it's all classified?
Because this is currently under review by the National Security Council.
Because it's all classified? If it's not classified, share the text now.
There was a little girl who had a little curl right in the middle of her round head. When she was good, she was very, very good. And when she was bad, she was horrid. That's our Director of National Intelligence. I can only conclude it's a DEI hire. That's all I can conclude. Okay? I mean, it would have been great if we had I don't know. Donald Trump should want to know. He should want to know if people in his administration are doing really, really stupid things. Oh, I'm sorry. That's what he wants them to do. All right. I get it. I get it now. And, of course, just deny. I never knew her. I never met her. Walls is saying he never met this Jeffrey Goldberg, who is the editor-in-chief at The Atlantic magazine. How could you not know Jeffrey Goldberg of The Atlantic magazine and then send Pete Hegseth out on the tarmac to quote every article he ever wrote that you disagreed with? I mean, it just makes no sense. And Donald Trump's like, what were they talking about? I don't know. You're telling me. I never. But he has a definite opinion about the Atlantic. I mean, a considered opinion, a real, opinion based on the writings of people who work at the Atlantic, but he's never heard of it. He just thinks it's a failing magazine and he doesn't know anything about it. Okay. All right, then.
It was shocking. And I got to say, all the things that I've seen happen in the last few weeks, it's taken a lot to feel genuinely shocked. But this is genuinely shocking. We're talking about incredibly sensitive, highly classified information that they didn't just discuss on an unclassified system. They sent war plans to the wrong guy. Now, they're lucky, and we're lucky, that that wrong guy was a responsible, patriotic, ethical journalist who just had on this program who knew not to publish anything that could put people's lives in danger. But I got two questions on my mind. One, what if this had, in fact, gone to somebody else? I mean, somebody who could plausibly be in some of these people's cell phones. I don't know, the Chinese ambassador or Russian negotiator. And the other question on my mind is, how many other times has something like this happened? You know, this is the one that we know about. But how many other times could they have screwed up like this in a way that puts American troops and families in harm's way?
And, you know, Buttigieg was an intel officer, so he would know a little something about it. I mean, he would be better suited to be the director of national intelligence than the medic, Tulsi Gabbard, who also wore the uniform, but she was a medic. I don't know how she gets from here to here without DEI. I don't know. I don't know how she gets, upwardly promoted this way unless it's, a diversity, equity, and inclusion hire. I don't know.
But speaking of what Buttigieg mentioned, I think we're all kind of lucky that it went to Goldberg. Not only did he not try to cash in or publish it, but he also didn't go back to the administration and say, hey, I've got this text chain. You know, I won't tell anybody, just what are you going to do for me type of thing.
Transactional.
Right?
Yeah, like they would have done to him. Well, he's not done. This is the thing. Because they're trashing Jeffrey Goldberg at the, the highest level of our country, the President of the United States, the Secretary of Defense stood on a tarmac yesterday and, in his buzzy way of, his drunk... Listen, it's like so amazing. Like with all this documentation, he's insisting that no war plans were discussed with the group, and I can only conclude that he doesn't remember that war plans were discussed with the group. And see, here's another little detail about why they might use an app. God, a commercially available app that you could download, that I could download for sensitive war plan information. Perhaps they didn't want a record of it. Now, if they go through the SCIFs, if they go through the official channels of government that they're supposed to go through when they're talking about top secret, highly classified, imminent attacks on a foreign country, then that record would be preserved forever in the National Archives, right? You know that. This, it gets erased after 4 weeks. That's what Signal does. So, there's a plethora of reasons why. But Buttigieg, when he was on the TV, he was like, I'm shocked. I'm really shocked. See, Brett, he's in my camp where everything shocks me, too. However, Brett is in the camp where, and so is Howard, where nothing shocks them anymore because, they've seen it all, heard it all, and every day is a new thing. And they, Howard, I won't put this on you, Brett, but Howard mocks me every single day going, I thought there was nothing new under the sun. Well, there isn't. It's just that when Hillary is asking risotto questions, meaty, important, broth-based risotto questions, and you have an expert on the other end, i.e. John Podesta, who can tell her about the starchiness that you would be washing out if you added all the broth at once instead of adding it incrementally and gradually, stirring and adding some more. You are talking to an expert, at least. At least. But they wanted to lock her up. So, there's nothing new under the sun, okay? Again, it's about, Hillary's risotto emails, hot stuff, or war plans. But Buttigieg, he was very funny in private, okay? I won't say in private. He was in public, but he wasn't on a mainstream news media. He was on his own social media, and this is how he put it, okay?
It's Pete. I try not to jump in with a take on everything or comment on everything we see in the news of the day, but what we learned about today is truly incredible. The U.S. Secretary of Defense, the National Security Advisor, the Vice President of the United States, and other very senior, very powerful Trump White House officials, it turns out, discussed highly classified war plans, not only on an unclassified channel, but accidentally and randomly, it seems, including a journalist. And to see this administration claiming that it cares about competence and merit, and then be responsible for an epic up like this demonstrates that these are not serious people. I was an intelligence officer for about 7 years in the U.S. Navy Reserve, and I occasionally handled highly classified information during my time in the cabinet as well. It can be hard to explain just how much goes into keeping that information safe. It is only available to people with a security clearance and a need to know. It's only discussed in certain facilities that are hardened to make sure that they don't have the same vulnerability to surveillance as most places. And importantly, you only ever use classified systems to discuss classified information. So America needs answers on why an unclassified, commercially available app was used, and even more importantly, how some of the most powerful people in this country didn't know that they accidentally included a journalist while they were discussing classified war plans that they had yet to authorize and execute. This is not something that's just important for its own sake. I know Americans who lost their lives because of intelligence failures. This kind of intelligence failure calls the question on whether there is any place for merit or competence in this administration at all. Because if there are not highly serious consequences for this level of screw up, then it will make clear that all of the bluster about merit that you hear about from this White House is just bullshit. We deserve so much better than this.
Yes, we do.
It is getting clearer by the day.
By the minute.
That the people in charge of the American government cannot keep the American people safe.
We're in danger, people. We're in danger. I'm telling you right now. This is exactly what Donald Trump wants to have happen. I think he's inviting an attack on our nation, and I don't know, how patient the world is going to be with us, knowing that they hate entire continents. Entire continents. One continent is full of crap hole nations. Another continent is full of, rancid gelato, I guess. I don't know. Bad veal. Oof. Tulsi Gabbard, our DNI, she can't say whether or not Edward Snowden is a hero or a traitor, right, in her confirmation hearings, and yet the Republicans confirm her. Now, the exit question on this topic ought to remain with you, and that is this. Why is it every time we have a Republican administration, there are intelligence F-ups? How come every time we have a Republican administration, we end up believing that some tin pot dictator should get $6 million to take tattooed people, but not Hegseth, and put them in a gulag, or that they have weapons of mass destruction and we need to do shock and awe? How come that happens every time we have a Republican president?
Donate. Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Keep the faith.
This is going to be a disaster.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
The fight over President Trump's order to deport hundreds of Venezuelans is now in the hands of the U.S. Court of Appeals in Washington, and one judge is pulling no punches.
Nazis got better treatment under the Alien Enemy Act. People weren't given notice. They weren't told where they were going. Those people on those planes on that Saturday had no opportunity to file habeas or any type of action to challenge the removal.
At issue is the deportation of hundreds of alleged gang members who were flown to a notorious prison in El Salvador under the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, a law last used during World War II when Germans, Japanese, and Italians were deported, and every deportee got a hearing to challenge the government's case. Judge Patricia Millett warning about the lack of due process now.
If the government says we don't have to give process for that, then y'all could have put me up on Saturday and thrown me on a plane, thinking I'm a member of Trinidad and given me no chance to protest it and say somehow it's a violation of presidential war powers for me to say, excuse me, no, I'm not. I'd like a hearing.
Trump's border czar Tom Homan firing back.
Well, that's first of all, it's ridiculous. It's just another example of a radical judge saying something that's just disgusting, to compare anything to the Nazis, the Holocaust. We follow the law.
President Trump is targeting the courts, calling for the impeachment of Judge James Boasberg. He's the judge who verbally ordered the government to turn the planes carrying the Venezuelans around. They weren't. The administration has accused the men without providing evidence of being violent gang members. In the appeals court, Judge Justin Walker suggested Boasberg has overstepped his authority.
Can you, standing here, give us an example of a district court injunction that enjoined national security operation partially overseas that survived appellate review?
Now, congressional Republicans are turning up the pressure, announcing hearings on Judge Boasberg next week.
Oh, God.
As the president, Elon Musk, and other allies call for the judge's impeachment and more scrutiny of the courts. And the pressure keeps ratcheting up. The Justice Department now telling Judge Boasberg that it will invoke the state secrets privilege, and that's designed to stop the judge's inquiry into what happened when those planes took off from the United States and ended up in El Salvador. And he wants to know whether his order was disobeyed. He's already said he doesn't think that privilege applies.
The state secret. Why don't they? Listen, they got some ideas here. Let's explore them together, okay? So they have a state secrets idea. They want to apply a state secrets proclamation over something. And I would suggest it's misplaced on the judge and that they should put it on Pete Hegseth. They should put it on Congressman Walz. They should put it on Tulsi Gabbard. They should put it on Ratcliffe. Okay? State secrets don't go on Signal. Just saying. State secrets are not involved in Judge Boasberg's decision to say these people had no due process. And if they did, show me that they had due process before you whisk them away to a prison planet known as El Salvador and a dictator who thinks he's the coolest dictator ever, who runs a 40,000, I won't even say bed. They don't have beds in that place. You know what that place looks like? If you look at old Holocaust, I don't even want to bring up what Tom Homan said because he's so stupid. He's so stupid. She didn't bring up the Holocaust. She brought up the fact that America treated Nazis in America during World War II better than these people who they got whisked away in the middle of the night without being told where they were going, without being told why they were going, without having an ability to see a judge or, a plead that they weren't a gang member, that they were a woman, or that they were a hairdresser, or that they were a makeup artist. The people in this country who were deported during World War II, Germans, Italians, because we had the Mussolini factor too, Spanish too, because, we had Franco, they were given a chance in front of a court. They were given a chance. They're all so drunk. I mean, obviously, Donald Trump picked them for a reason. That he wants them to say these stupid things to the stupid people that are stupidly believing that this is not fascism and that stupidly believe that, using Signal is just fine for war plans, especially when the person that organized the call was in Moscow at the time. Sure, what could go wrong there? But this is fascism. There is no question about this. There's just, and they're going after judges. They're going after the law itself. They're going after anybody that doesn't deserve it and nobody that does. Nobody that does, because they're doing what Donald Trump wants them to do. Be stupid and act stupidly and say you know nothing and you heard nothing and you won't answer. And you defy court orders, and you go to jail for him. I mean, our trade advisor, let's just bring him up one more time, because consumer confidence in this country is like the bottom rung of the ladder. I mean, if consumer confidence was somewhere on a totem pole, it would be where the dog lifts its leg right now. And that's because he keeps threatening that April 2nd, we're going to have new tariffs. Nobody knows what that's going to be. Nobody knows how to plan. Nobody knows what it's going to do. He's also cutting off everything. So he's crippling Social Security. People said to me, oh, I don't know why you say that there's long waits on the phone lines. Oh, you can get right through and they'll call you back. Yeah, well, the Social Security Administration is now rushing cuts to phone services at the White House's request. And some of the most vulnerable Americans, people who are hospitalized, people who are children, especially the ones in foster homes, those living in remote areas, they're going to have hurdles that they're not going to be able to climb to get to their disability benefits, to get to their survivors' benefits, to get to their veterans' benefits. I mean, everybody understands what's going on. And that's why consumer confidence is at an all-time low. People who survive on $1,100 a month are being told by a guy who makes $8 million a day off government contracts. Yeah, Elon Musk makes $8 million a day off government contracts. Government contracts. And then you're saying to people who paid into Social Security their entire lives that your lousy $1,100 check isn't coming. And if you want to know why, then you're a fraudster. There's something wrong with you. You're the squeaky wheel because you're broken. There's something wrong with you. And only the fraudsters are going to scream like stuck pigs when we stick it to you. According to, that douche that sits there and says, my mother-in-law's 94, and if her check didn't come, she wouldn't say anything. She would call you. As if she needs to call you, like you're not supporting her anyway. If you weren't, your wife would leave you. It's your mother-in-law you're talking about. I mean, these people are just so gross. They're so lower than the spit on the belly of a snake, okay? But the beneficiaries that aren't in Social Security, they could be blocked from receiving benefits. This is an internal Social Security memo that Axios got hold of and, printed. That's how I know about it. I mean, you got journalists in this country that are doing the Lord's work at this point. They're bombing 53 Yemenis and, saying, let's do it on Signal. And then claiming they know nothing about it. But they are destroying Social Security. I mean, it's in my homework, but it's, thank God for, good journalism. Thank God for Axios. Thank God for, the New York Times. Thank God for it, okay? But you have an acting director of the Social Security Administration. His name is Leland Dudek. His replacement is, at a hearing right now to become the director of the Social Security. And this guy, he doesn't like Social Security either.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Okay, this is one of the 3 appeals court justices yesterday.
There were no procedures in place to notify people. Nazis got better treatment under the Alien Enemy Act than has happened here. If the government says we don't have to give process for that, then y'all could have put me up on Saturday and thrown me on a plane, thinking I'm a member of Nicaragua and giving me no chance to protest it. If your argument is we didn't have to do that, it's an intrusion on the president's war powers, the courts are paralyzed to do anything, then that's a misreading of precedent. It's a misreading of the text of the Alien Enemies Act. And that can't be an unlawful intrusion on the president's powers. It just can't. The president has to comply with the Constitution and laws like everybody else.
Oh, look at you being all judge-like. Look at you all judgy. Stop being so judgy. He's trying to keep us safe from some damn thing. Now, I want to tell you that this is fascism, okay, what he's doing. No due process, saying the Constitution doesn't apply to this one or that one based on tattoos. But not Hegseth's tattoos. No. Just tattoos in general. In fact, one of the guys that was spirited away in the middle of the night, even though the judge said, hey, do not launch that airplane. I don't want it leaving. I need to make sure that these people on this plane got due process. Because that is who we are. That is what the Constitution requires. That's what the Alien Enemies Act requires. It's reviewable. People that are, spirited away aren't spirited away without due process. That's what she meant with the Nazi people when it happened here, got better treatment. Here here. She wasn't talking about there. But Holman is such a bumblehead. I mean, he is Captain. He is Colonel Clank. He is that guy. He's that fat. The F word I want to use for him. I can't stand that man.
Speaking of him, he better take it easy because he referred to Nazism, the Holocaust, as disgusting. Doesn't he know some of his biggest fans are neo-Nazis?
Well, they are because this is fascism. And so there's no way that they didn't copy this kind of spiriting of people away in the middle of the night without any due process from anything American, because it didn't happen here that way. And we did have a World War II. We did. And so that's what she was hearkening back to, that during World War II, when it was going on here, we did some shameful things. And one of them, George Takei could tell you all about, was Japanese internment. That was the Pacific portion of World War II. The European portion of World War II involved Americans being spirited away. But they still had their day in court. They still were able to say, don't deport me. I'm not part of the Democrat. Well, it wasn't Democratic. It was the Socialist Party, the Nazi Socialist Party. I'm not part of that. Well, good for you. Bye-bye. And we treated people better when we were at actual war than we're doing now when we're not at war with Venezuela or Guatemala, for that matter. And, 8 of the people I just read about today, just today, 8 of them were women from Guatemala that were brought to this. It's a concentration camp, okay? And if you want to, this is the comparison that you need to see if you wanted to compare it to that horrible period in time in Germany, okay? Have a little look at the bunks that were crafted and created in like Dachau or Bergen-Belsen or any of the horrific, death chamber, the horrific death camps, okay? Just have a little look. See, they were like massive bunks, and people would be, kind of in the bunk horizontally, vertically, one next to the. That's the way it is in El Salvador, except it's metal or it's concrete. Thank God. I'm not there yet. I'm sure I'll have my flight and, my experience as well. But I'll just say I'm a girl. And I have no tattoos. Thank God. Thank God. I did have one. Don't anymore. But, no, surgery. Not by choice. It just had to go. It was part of an operational area. So, bye-bye. I'll let you guess. Women know.
If I had to guess, it was something like a heart with the word heart in it.
Oh, what it
over your
was?
heart.
What it was?
Yeah.
Oh no, it was a sunshine and two birds. It looked like the Mets logo or something. It came out really funky. It was bad. I got it in West Texas, and it was orange and blue like the Mets. It was a weird one, but women know where I was operated, and they know why I don't have it anymore. That's where it was. So anyway, I digress. The fascist portion of what's going on here is that people are not getting due process. And in America, you get that. You get to say, I'm not part of Tren de Aragua, and I can show you that because I'm gay, or because I have no tattoos, or because I'm a woman, and I'm not from Venezuela. I'm from Nicaragua. I'm from Guatemala. I'm from Costa Rica. We don't even have a military there, okay? You understand? This is like a really peaceful place, Costa Rica. And Trump's threatening them, too. He wants them to take, these gang members. So here's the truth. Here's the ugly, scary truth. This is why it leads to a very, very unsafe, insecure, disgustingly dark place. So prepare yourself. And if you're easily triggered by dark thoughts, you should turn me off for at least till the end of this segment, okay? Because I'm going to say something to you. And perhaps nobody's talked this bluntly to you ever in your life. But Donald Trump is out of criminals. You understand that, right? The criminals that he referred to that needed to be in jail are in jail. When Idiot Boy Holman says, where's, Laken Riley's due process? She got murdered, and the person that murdered her got a full trial, was found guilty, and is now in prison for the rest of their life. That's how America rolls. It's what we do. You can't pre-crime it. You can't say, this guy looks like he might kill Lincoln Riley, even though they were close. I mean, it's just, the whole thing is ridiculous. The whole thing is ridiculous. Everything they're setting out as a role model or the other way that, it can be done is not a way it can be done and still keep America, America. It's not anything that can be done and keep America the land of the free and the home of the brave. But that said, we're running out of criminals. We just don't have any more. That's why women were swept up in this. That's why people from Nicaragua were swept up in this. People from Guatemala were swept up in this. They are not part of Trense Aragua, which is Venezuelan. They are not part of MS-13, which is El Salvador's old gangs, okay? So now that they're out of, now that they're out of criminals, they're going after non-criminals, which of course is always the way. Bukele is doing it in El Salvador. He's out of criminals too. He's locked up every single person that he could lock up. Children too, he's locked them up. Now he's taking them from foreign countries. Why? He's got a prison that costs him $200 million a year to run. 40,000 beds. He doesn't have enough criminals to put in those beds, so we're going to give him people that we say are criminals. Some of them are. Some of them are really disgusting, but most weren't.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Well, I didn't get the horrible part in the last segment, so it's coming. It's still coming, okay? So if you really don't want to hear dark, you need to tune away. All right, so obviously we're sending people who are not gang members to a dictator in Central America and paying him to warehouse them in places that look like a modern day concentration camp. I don't know what else to say. I don't know how else to say it. It's exactly like that. There's 80 people in one cell, okay? And to call it a cell, it's like a block, okay? It's just exactly like Bergen-Belsen. It's exactly like, Auschwitz. It's exactly like any death camp you've ever seen photos of or pictures of. You should go look up Seacoat, okay, and see how they house these people. So there's 80 of them in one big, giant cell, okay? There are no beds. There are no pillows. There are no blankets. There are no sheets. The lights stay on 24/7. Okay? There is no talking allowed. No talking. And if you violate any of these rules, you are beaten. You are taken out and you are beaten badly. Okay? It is a torture chamber. And so sending people who did nothing wrong, sending people who aren't gang members, sending people who haven't done any crime at all, and these people are being hidden from the courts because they fit this description. These are people that did nothing, have no criminal records, neither in their home country, whether it was Nicaragua, Guatemala, or Venezuela, nor do they have any criminal history in this country, and yet Donald Trump fed them to a Central American dictator, which sounds like something out of the 80s. But it's on, everybody. It's on. One of the guys, this is what got me talking about tattoos, but one of the guys is a Venezuelan professional soccer player. He's literally a soccer champion, okay? His name's Jersey Reyes Barrios. Okay, I'm sure I'm screwing up his name because my Spanish sucks, but I understand everything, but I can't say it. Okay, so he's a professional soccer player, and the tattoo he has is the Madrid soccer team. I think it's Madrid Real or Real Madrid, and it's got a crown on it. Well, apparently, this Salvadoran gang, I'm getting my gangs mixed up. The Venezuelan gang also uses various sports symbols as their tats, and a crown is one of them. The other one is, the jumping man. Is it Nike or is it Adidas? Who has the jumping man as a
Jumpman? Yeah, it's Nike, right?
Is it Nike? That's also one of theirs. That's one of their gang tattoos. I mean, So what are the odds that some Nike guy who really loves Nikes and collects Nikes, has a jumping man tattoo, and then all of a sudden, woo, you're in a Salvadoran freaking concentration camp. That's what's going on. And that's why he's invoking the national securities, the Secrets Act, because he can't tell the court these people are them, because these people have done nothing, because they ran out of criminals. Bukele ran out of criminals in El Salvador. Now he's looking to other countries to send him people that they want him to warehouse, that they want him to torture, that they want him to disappear. That's what's going on. He ran out of criminals and Trump ran out of criminals. And so now they're scraping the bottom of the barrel, trying to find a criminal in the crowd of soccer players in Venezuela, apparently, that have crown tattoos because they hope one day they could be part of the Madrid soccer team. I mean, it's just unbelievable. You have a Canadian citizen named Jasmine Moody, Canadian citizen. She was spirited to a series of ICE detention centers where the filthy cells were ice cold and they leave the lights on 24/7. This is like a form of torture, all because they mixed up her visa with somebody else. And they held her for weeks. You've got a Georgetown University researcher who the Trump administration says, without offering any evidence, was spreading Hamas propaganda. So anything at all, any connection, random or tenuous or as small as it might be, like a jumping man tattoo, you're on a plane somewhere. That is fascism. Okay, but here's the really scary part. This is the part that I want you to prepare yourself for. And I know some people in this audience have already prepared themselves for this. I'm just going to read to you from New York Magazine. The Intelligentsia. These are seriously great journalists that write these stories. I mean, these are amazing long-form journalists. They go deep into stories. They work for months on a story, okay? Just one story. And this one actually says that the United States is paying, it starts with Bukele opening up CCOT, and, it captures the scale of his ambition of this dictator, like how he was going to distinguish himself among all the other Central American dictators. And his was going to be building a 40,000 bed torture chamber, a 40,000 capacity, I should say, because there's no beds, facility. He started out as a regional lockup. And then he opens it up to receiving prisoners from every other country, any country that wanted to pay him. He would take your prisoners. In the U.S., Marco Rubio, little Marco, went down there and made the agreement with him for $6 million to take 231, I think, prisoners. And Bukele wrote on X on the 16th of March, the United States will pay a very low fee for them. And he explained that the financial sustainability of the prison, which reportedly costs $200 million a year to operate, depends now on payments like the $6 million that Trump is sending him, so that he can, fill up the prison with people and keep it open. Otherwise, he can't afford this prison because it's so massive. It's built on a giant farm. If you've seen drone footage of it, this thing is massive. It's many, many, many large buildings, large buildings. It does look like a concentration camp. It really does. But then it goes on to say this. He also has a political incentive. And this is the bracing part, okay? It says once he ran out of gang members to jail, he started rounding up people with only tenuous connections to gang activity to keep his campaign going, which has ominous implications for Trump's tough-on-crime immigration agenda back home, because Trump has also run out of criminals to send. And so Richard Hanania and Christopher Rufo, you know who they are, right? They're white supremacists, but they actually set a lot of the conceptual groundwork for what often becomes Republican policy. And in a 2023 Substack post, Hanania, a one-time regular on VDARE, the white supremacist website, said that Bukele's draconian policies must be imposed on high-crime black neighborhoods. We need more policing, incarceration, and surveillance of black people. Blacks won't appreciate it, and whites won't have the stomach for it.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
So you got a problem, right? You got a problem. You got no criminals, and you got a Central American dictator with a 40,000 capacity prison that costs him $200 million a year that he needs to market to other countries who want to get rid of undesirables, or want to get rid of people of color, or want to get rid of people with tattoos, or want to get rid of people that are quote unquote woke. And what's really crazy is that these right-wing influencers, these right-wing lunatic, you can't even call them fringe anymore, because they're getting awards now for setting up policies for the United States. They're receiving accolades from right-wing, rags like the Examiner and other places. And, but these are people that frequent places that practice extreme racism and anti-Semitism. And so it's kind of rich that Donald Trump is telling you that some Palestinian protesters are anti-Semitic, and this is why their schools have to be punished, when he is totally the handmaid of the anti-Semitic right-wing VDARE storm. What's that? The Stormfront, website. All these people come from that world, and they are advising this administration. And one of the things that they're telling the administration is that when you run out of criminals to send to El Salvador, when El Salvador runs out of criminals to put in the Salvadoran CCOP prison, what you need to do is look at high crime places, high crime cities, not suburbs, not places where there's drug crimes because people are horribly addicted. You don't even want to pay any attention to the people that are horribly addicted anymore. You know why? Why? Because they need Medicaid if they're going to go to rehab. Medicaid pays for people to try and get off of things like heroin, get off of things like fentanyl, synthetic heroin, get off of any drugs that might have them in their claws, right? So you need Medicaid for that. And they would rather do what Duterte, who by the way is on trial now for what he did in the Philippines. You remember Duterte in Trump 1, he was the most admired dictator by Trump. He loved him because Duterte was sending out little motorcycle gangs, little not Harleys or anything. Don't think that big. Like little motorbike, black motorbike clad police officers and randos with guns, and they were allowed to kill. I mean, it's like the Purge, okay? They were allowed to kill anybody that they saw using drugs, not selling drugs to kids. Not just using drugs, drug users. And Duterte is now on trial for mass murder because he did do this in the Philippines. And one can only hope that there would be justice in a case like that. We'll wait, we'll see. But anyway, so you've got these guys, okay? You've got this Hanania dude, which is not his real name. And you've got this other guy, Chris Rufo, who I think is more well-known. But they advise the Trump administration. And some of the things they're telling Elon Musk, okay, is that when you run out of criminals, when you run out of gang members from Venezuela, or you run out of El Salvadorans, who were tattooed in MS-13 tattoos and whatever, and, you're just down to, like, who do we feed to the prison pipeline next? Well, you go back to ground. You go back to what you started doing in the first place. And what's really creepy and what's really insane, but what's really happening, if you ask me, and some other journalists around this country, is anything that happened in the 60s. And I was talking briefly about the 60s yesterday. But I missed it, okay? I really did. I was not old enough to be, a part of it or to have fond memories of protesting or any of those things. But in the 60s, we had a lot of progress. We had a lot of setbacks, like wars we shouldn't have fought. But we also had a lot of progress. We had a Civil Rights Act of 1964. We had a Voting Rights Act of 1965. We had a war on poverty that, was kind of killed in its cradle. Because LBJ became a one-term president as a result of the protests, the war protests. Same thing is happening now, except at the college campuses, they're protesting the Israeli war, which isn't even our war, in Gaza. Now, Trump has made it his war by offering to Netanyahu the idea that he wants Gaza. He wants it. He wants to own it. He doesn't want to buy it. He just wants to take it. Trump does. And he wants it cleaned out. And Netanyahu's like, I'll do that for you. I'll do ethnic cleansing. I don't really give a damn. I'll do it. And so the people that protested on the left, same as in Vietnam era, protested not the Vietnam War, which was our war, but are protesting somebody else's war on our college campuses. Donald Trump is going after those people as if they are anti-Semites. And yet his administration is full of anti-Semites, which is the irony of the whole shebang, okay? So this Chris Rufo guy and this other guy are saying what you need to do next is go look at all these neighborhoods, and any neighborhood at all that has a high enough murder rate needs to make solving crime its number one priority. This is a quote, okay? This is a quote. I think this is Rufo's quote. Quote, this was true for that nation before Bukele came along, as it is for major American cities today. It's not a big mystery how to do this. It's just politically difficult because literally everything that works is considered racist. Everything that works. One of the data points he embedded was a screenshot of Elon Musk remarking on the mortal danger that black people supposedly pose to white people. This is Hanania in an X post promoting this article. He stated plainly, quote, we need more policing, incarceration, and surveillance of black people. Blacks won't appreciate it. Whites don't have the stomach for it. One of the lessons of Trump's infatuation with Bukeleism is that increasingly they do. The lesson that the ultra racist right wing, who is full of hostile white men who voted for Trump. I mean, if it wasn't for white people, Trump would not be president. If it wasn't for older white women and it wasn't for white men, Donald Trump would not be president. These people are saying out loud that people are getting used to the idea of people disappearing. People are getting used to the idea of, Mahmoud Khalil, who, was an organizer of campus protests, just disappearing. And everybody, the racists on the internets will say, how do you say he disappeared? You know where he is. I know what state he's in, supposedly. Somewhere in Louisiana, I hear. His wife is almost ready to give birth. He's not in the same state as she is. And why was he taken away? What are the charges? We don't know. There were no charges, right? There were no charges. Same thing with this, Venezuelan soccer player. But they're making you used to the idea that people disappear in America. They're making you get used to the idea that people don't get due process if Donald Trump can characterize them in a certain way, that they're a danger to you, or that they are the worst of the worst, or that they came from an insane asylum, or that they came from a prison. Well, none of these people that were on those planes that went to El Salvador were from insane asylums, and none of them were from someone's prison. No, the people that we know of don't have records. And when Holman was asked about these people, okay, and I'm sure some of them are gang members. I'm sure some of them had to be. But when he was asked, were they ever charged with a crime here or in their home country? The answer was no. You just need to know that they were going to do something. And I'm sure that mixed in with the people who weren't going to do something, mixed in with the people who were women, mixed in with the people who were hairdressers, mixed in with the people that were law-abiding, mixed in with the people whose names we don't know, there's probably some really crazy bad person. Maybe 3, maybe 10. And that will be enough. That will be enough to make social media and influencers and white supremacists and everybody else be able to talk you into going along with disappearing people with no due process.